Looks pretty good. I say we roll.
Yeah, we look great.
Rolling. I'm here with my guest number 12 of the Buttpod, Paul Bae.
Hey.
How's it going, Paul?
Excellent. Thanks for having me.
We had a lovely chat.
We did.
We talked for close to an hour and a half.
Yeah.
I'll probably shave that down to 9 minutes. No, it was a good chat. What are your thoughts?
It actually made me, because we were talking memories a bit, it made me miss the old club, the Urban Well, which was the hottest club.
Because I know Paul from the greasy world of nightclub comedy, but he stopped doing stand-up, and he's now, I think I can say this without any hyperbole, one of the most successful podcasters in the history of our nation, ladies and gentlemen. The Black Tape podcast, which did great guns.
Yep.
Fantastic business and listeners. Pardon the interruption. I just wanted to say stay tuned to the end of this video because I have a special announcement about the Black Tapes. This information was not made available until after we had shot this video and recorded the podcast. So stay tuned right at the end. Special Black Tapes announcement. Okay, we're going to return you now to the regularly scheduled video. Yeah. Doing another podcast called The Big Loop Podcast, which was just tell the folks about the Apple US.
Yeah, named us among their best of 2018. No category, just overall podcast, which is a surprise.
Not best podcast run by a guy named Paul. Something like that. That wouldn't be that impressive.
Yeah.
You'd be one of 9.
Yeah.
But of all podcasts in existence.
Yeah.
They picked 2 Vancouver-based podcasts.
Us and This Sounds Serious, our friends.
This Sounds Serious, which is a comedy podcast. But The Big Loop is not a comedy podcast. It's creepy as hell.
Yeah, creepy podcast. We got comedy and creepy in that word thing.
We got all the bases covered here in Vancouver. Tell the folks a bit about The Big Loop.
It's an anthology podcast. If you think Black Mirror for your ears, basically. So 6 episodes a season. We have 2 seasons. And we have horror, sci-fi, and something called magic realism.
Now, that seems like there are nerds involved now. If you get magic realism, that's like elves fighting dragons and what have you. A lot of damsels.
Yeah. I got one episode where it's a Korean gangster rescuing a dog, and then some weird stuff happens, and that's where the sort of like the magic realism comes in.
You could pitch every episode of The Big Loop by saying it ends with, and some weird stuff happens.
Yeah, that's true.
Because some weird stuff happens on The Big Loop. Check it out if you're into podcasts, even if you're not. If you're into psychologically thrilling stories, sometimes disturbing.
Yep.
We talked about this on the podcast. The last one is The Fugue. The last one that you did.
Yeah, The Fugue.
I was on a flight from Toronto back home, and it was some kind of creepy. I was all creeped out because the episode takes place on a spaceship in dark space, and I was flying from Toronto at night. I'm looking out the window in the dark. Oh, it gives me chills thinking about it.
Were you thinking about the Twilight Zone episode with William Shatner with the thing on the wing?
No, because that one never creeped me out.
That never scared you?
No, I always thought the monster looked super fakey. Even as a little kid, I was like, God, that's the guy. I couldn't have made a better suit than that.
That scared the crap out of me. I was so unsophisticated.
I was too big into the production side of things. Even as a youngster, I was like, oh, that's not a very good prop there.
Showbiz calling him young.
Yeah. Did you watch The Twilight Zone as a kid?
Oh, yeah. I'm looking forward to Jordan Peele bringing it back.
I just had to turn down, I got an opportunity to audition for an episode.
You turned it down?
Yeah, I was, when they wanted me to audition, I was busy making a living. I was like, we were doing corner gas animated related stuff.
Which just went global. You just exploded.
Yeah, we just hit, in case you missed out, corner gas. The original 107 episodes and the movie are all available streaming outside of Canada for the first time. It's always streamed and continues to stream in Canada on Crave. But if you're watching this from outside Canada and you have an Amazon Prime membership, Amazon Prime Video, that's Corner Gas is now available in 60 countries.
If I were you, I'd be tempted to go to a country that I've never been to before, see where the biggest downloads of Corner Gas were, and just go in.
Now, have you done that with your podcast? Where you look at the analytics of the Big Loop podcast, do you see where
it goes by country is not too specific? Like right. If I go to Cameroon, I know 3 guys that are really into the Big Loop.
Where is it most popular?
In America.
In America?
Yeah, both my podcasts are big in America.
How do you think that came to be? Because the thing with podcasting is you don't really market. You're not putting out ads. When you come up with a podcast idea, how do you get the word out?
Well, the Black Tapes were lucky that we were one of the first in that genre.
Right. Because there aren't a lot of audio dramas.
Yeah, not back then. There's a lot now. But then, you have people like...
Because of you? Were you trailblazing?
No, I wouldn't
Take
say
the
trailblazing.
credit for who's going to call you on it?
Well, there's this certain personalities that picked up on it, and we were called out and shouted out, and yeah, that's how word spread. Big Loop, not that big, but for people who are really into audio drama, they seem to like it.
Yeah, it's very, very well done. The production level, I feel, is very good. There's excellent creepy music. Where does the music come from? Are you composing any of that?
No, except for one comedy episode. I could do the comedy music.
Because I've seen, I follow you on Instagram, Paul Bae on Instagram, Mr. Paul Bae. Mr. Paul Bae on Instagram. I'll put that up here somewhere. I've seen shots of you in the studio with your dogs, your hounds. If you like Instagram accounts that have a lot of dog action, this guy's right there. You have 3 dogs?
3 dogs.
But anyway, I see sometimes in your studio a little keyboard there.
Yeah, and I make music, I make some of the Big Loop music from that, but not the important. It's more like the bumpers.
All right.
Into and out of commercial breaks and stuff like that. But I go on to what used to be called Free Music Archive. I think they're not in existence anymore. I reach out to artists for the big closing songs.
I'm an artist. You've never reached out to me.
What are you composing now?
No, not a musical artist, but I'm an artist. I play guitar. If you ever have a Big Loop episode where it's hillbilly based or something, and you need somebody to go ring ding a ding ding ring a ding a ding, I could be your guy for that.
That's hard to play, that hillbilly stuff.
Ring ding a ding ding ring a ding a ding. I could just come and do that for you.
I follow your Instagram, and you've been touring and taking the camera backstage to all the theater shows, and
yeah,
it's fantastic.
I put a lot of those up here on the Buttpod. There's a playlist here if you're interested. There's a playlist of me on the road doing shows, but it's a fun thing to do. Take the camera out, jerk around on the road. You're out killing time in between gigs, right? It's fun to do. Do you miss doing stand-up?
I do sometimes, but I live where I live in Lions Bay, just too far to go back and forth, and it takes a lot of time for me to write a bit. To write a 1-minute bit, I could write 2 pages of an audio drama.
So it's not a good use of your time.
No.
Well, this is the problem. You're going about writing bits. Don't do that. You go down to the club, have a couple of drinks, and ramble.
You're one of the only people that can do that. Those of you who have never been to his home club, Urban Well, that he ran.
Subjected to.
Everyone always talks about that one night that we had some German tourists in the crowd. Do you remember this summer? And you just went at them, and everyone was just they were enjoying it that you're picking on them. But you do it in such a lovely way. You never exclude people. You always me. I get when I drink and perform, I get edgy.
You start kicking.
I start kicking
and punching.
Yeah, you don't. You draw people
biting. There's a lot of biting with Paul. It's unnerving. Let me ask you this about the Big Loop. Because the stories are good and creepy and they chill you, I'm getting a little chill at the back of the neck thinking of the Fugue story. When did you first realize you had a proclivity? Is that a word? Mm-hmm, you used to be a teacher. You used to be an actual teacher.
Yeah.
English
teacher.
Proclivity. Not a bad word I pulled out.
That's a great word. That's an A.
And used properly, too. I'll often pull out a big word, a fantastic word, but I use it wrong. But it sounds great. Sounds very smart. But where did you, or when did you realize you had this proclivity for creepy stories?
Since I was a kid, I've always been good at telling scary stories. At university, we didn't have much money. We only had 2 channels with my roommates and me.
Right.
So they, on certain nights when we're drinking, they're like, "Hey, Paul, tell the scary stories," and I just make it up as I go along.
Wow.
And then I was a teacher. Every Halloween, I'd do the hour of horror and make up new.
Traumatize the children.
Yeah, exactly.
That's good.
And get,
We're having a whole new generation of teenagers coming up and becoming young adults who are psychologically scarred because of this man. Well done, sir.
Thank you.
Thanks for being guest number 12.
Thanks for having me.
On the Buttpod podcast. You can find it at thebuttpod.com. iTunes, Spotify, Stitcher, Blueberry, I don't know where else. If you enjoyed this little video, give it a little thumbs up, subscribe, do all the things you got to do on a YouTube video in order to achieve the success that we're looking for. Spread the word, tell your friends. Thanks very much. Listen to the Paul Bae podcast. The Big Loop podcast with Paul Bae.
Thank you.
Okay, here's the special announcement. The Black Tapes podcast that Paul and I were talking about there has been picked up by NBC Universal to go into development to become a TV series, the Black Tapes TV series. So that's pretty cool, right? So go listen to the Black Tapes podcast now before it becomes a full-on TV show with NBC Universal and Paul and his partners. Fantastic news. That just came out. That news actually broke the day after Paul and I recorded the podcast. So you're on the cutting edge. So good work.